Well, everybody, the town is painted green today as the Saskatchewan Roughriders have won the Grey Cup. I currently saw some videos online of them in some what looked like army vehicles celebrating their Grey Cup win. And you know what? A great CFL season comes to an end, and for the first time I think for the first time in a very long time at this league, we can say kind of going into a new era of CFL football for 2026.
Yeah, I mean it's a new champion for a team that hasn't won in 12 years. Been waiting. I wrote in my preview is an agonizing title drought, and man, did I trigger some fan bases with that one. Like, here's the thing. Yes, I know the Lions have technically a longer streak by 2 years. Yes, I know about the Hamilton Tiger Cats and their streak, but the Rough Riders had been close. And they weren't close. And that is a town that you just said it, painted green because you saw the reaction after the game. That's how much that team and a Grey Cup means to that city. And Frank, and everyone knows, 5 Grey Cup titles, and was it 19 losses in Grey Cup games? Like, this is not a city that sees a lot of title runs for their football team. Not
And
like
win.
Edmonton, not like Toronto, like in a way, or even now Winnipeg. Like Winnipeg,
Even Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal too. But like Frank can. I mean, he knows a lot more about the history of this league.
Oh, okay.
It's just Saskatchewan. This means a lot more because they don't have the ability to say that we've been to a bunch of Grey Cups or we've won a bunch of Grey Cups.
Well, the fans in Riderville. Here, I'm going to tell you the most important thing just in a couple of sentences. Not only that they won and that they have such a poor record in Grey Cups, they couldn't have done it any better than they wanted to do it. They won the thing in Winnipeg. They won the Grey Cup in Winnipeg while using the Winnipeg, I assume, dressing room because they were the home team.
Nope. They did not. They had to do almost like a makeshift locker room. I think they used the
university one.
Yeah, the university one.
Oh my goodness! See, I remember them talking about it. I don't remember a conclusion because there was some concern. The joke was, what if Winnipeg made it? And then they would have been in the game. Do they get the visitors locker room or the home locker room? Right. That discussion. But anyway, the point is they won in Winnipeg. It couldn't have been a better place for them. The fans of course, of Regina and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, totally thrilled with doing that. And just imagine, guys, I was looking in the audience when it turned out the Saskatchewan won. And it looked to me like all the fans that were wearing W's on their chest were in shock. Like they just couldn't believe that it actually happened in Winnipeg. And that's the sweetest thing about this. The only thing better that I could think of, well, not the only thing, another really good thing would be the Argos winning the Grey Cup in Hamilton, or Hamilton winning the Grey Cup in Toronto, because essentially that's what we saw. We saw a rival city be a witness to their most hated opponent in the league winning the Grey Cup in their house. And that was the biggest thing I took back
Frank,
from it.
It reminds me of last year in BC. There were a good amount of Blue Bombers fans, Argos fans. There weren't a lot of Argo fans, but guess what? There are a lot of fans who are cheering against the Blue Bombers in those stands. That's what it is. That's what makes the Grey Cup so unique, is that it's not just the fans of the teams there. It's the other fan bases. And it's like, okay, where do the allegiances lie? I'm sure some Blue Bombers fans felt really conflicted about not only cheering. Sure, they'll cheer against the Roughriders, but they're cheering for the team that beat them in the Grey Cup 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's another little storyline as well. And also beat them this year.
Yeah.
Not just the Grey Cup, beat them again this year.
I also remember too, 2024 opening day went back into Winnipeg and just dominated them from the jump. But I vividly remember, obviously, I wasn't in BC last year, but I was in Hamilton 2 years ago. And I remember hearing the theme, and also when you guys were there on the bus back to the hotel from the stadium, that the theme in 2022 was just shock. 2023 was just, they were pissed off that they lost that one. So the closest I can think to something like this happening would probably be 2018, when I believe Calgary won in Edmonton.
Yeah, they won in Edmonton, but I don't feel personally, as a viewer, not as a participant on the sidelines, the I don't think Calgary and Edmonton have that same, that same blood lust, I don't think they do. That's not to suggest they don't. It's just to emphasize how much Hamilton hates Toronto and how much the Riders in Winnipeg hate each other, the fan base. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. I don't disagree with you at all. After all, when Calgary was the team of dominance a few years back, the favorite 3 letters were ABC. Anybody but Calgary.
Yeah.
That was a thing that went through all the CFL. And to your point, as far as I want to say this, because in my opinion, what I have found historically is that at the Grey Cup, it usually ends up that the Western team fans are the Eastern fans whose team isn't in the game.
Yeah, because I remember hearing. Sorry to cut you off, but I remember.
No, it's okay. I made my point.
Because I remember hearing online and just through my colleagues with 3 Down that apparently it seemed like it was like 30% Rider fans in the crowd, and then you had not too many Alouettes fans at the game, but because I know for Sask fans, like I didn't realize how the drive from Regina to Winnipeg is not terrible. It's not short,
hours.
But I think it's like
5 hours.
5 hours.
About 5 hours.
Well, you know what I mean, though. Like for them to like,
it's like going to Montreal. It's like going to Montreal if you're in Toronto.
Yeah, which the point I'm trying to say for them is with Rough Rider fans, if they last minute were like, hey, because like I feel like there was probably a lot of them that were already going to go regardless, but there's probably an extra incentive for a lot of them to go.
You betcha.
Once they won, let's make a week like maybe probably took work off yesterday in the sea of old style, but for them to say on Saturday, hey, yeah, we're going to drive the 5 hours like Frank, you and I almost did last year for the East Final. So. And something I'm hoping to do in 2026.
Let me plant something in your brain. Let me run this by your brain and see what you think, both of you. You're in Regina. You're a Saskatchewan Roughrider fan. The Grey Cup's in Winnipeg, and your team's playing, and they have a good shot at winning. What's going to stop you from going? What is going to stop you from going? You basically are going if you can.
These are fans that drive like 3-4 hours to get to their own home games to begin with.
They drive 3-4 hours just to Mosaic. So it's just another day for them.
These are also fans who slept in their cars overnight when the game got postponed today because of the fires out there, if you remember that game.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely do.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So from a fan perspective, it was a great experience if you were a Rider fan. I think if you're a Montreal fan, the fears that you had because the whispers were there that your quarterback wasn't 100% healthy. From a fan perspective, they went into their game like this. They went there with their fingers crossed, hoping their guy would be healthy till the end of the game. I think that's the thing. I think that made it less shocking for Montreal's fans to accept the fact that they lost.
Yes, and I'm trying to get the report here, but with Davis Alexander's so like our guy at 3 Down got to talk to him post game, and apparently all the Montreal guys were very gracious in defeat when talking to, handle it very, very well. Apparently with let's see, that's his thoughts on the game. I'm trying to see what the actual grade was because I know for Davis he's not going to need surgery, but right here. Yeah, so basically it was the last one he sustained was a grade 2A, which was 4 to 6 weeks to recover. This was a grade 3C, which is still not fully healed, which I think anything at worse, it would have been off the bone, and that'd be a 9-month recovery, which would put him out till probably Labor Day at the earliest, I think. So, but I still have to give it up for them for the whole game, though, for Montreal, because, look, they just I don't even think you can blame Alexander and his hamstring for them losing the game. I just think, on days where the football gods, sometimes, like how we're going to talk about this on David's show later with hockey. The puck doesn't bounce your way. You just don't get it in the net. For Montreal, it's, hey, the pick six doesn't land in your hands. Hey, the underthrowing of the ball to Tyson Philpott, which could have changed. I think that's a play that's not talked about a lot. The first interception from Marcus Sayles.
And the fumble, which is
the fumble, which if those plays go Montreal's way, we're having a very different conversation.
Even if two of the three or one of the three, if any one of those didn't happen, the game would be different, in my opinion. One of those things.
Here's the other thing too, with the more importantly, the fumble. Sask goes 2 and out and has to punt. That's potentially giving the game away with about 2 or 3 minutes to go. So there's just, sports are such a wacky thing, that let's like I was using the hockey metaphors. I would go down the baseball rabbit hole, but I'd rather not punish myself. I don't hate myself that much.
The football explanation can be used. The football is a perfect determining factor when it comes to football. That's how football ends up. It depends. It's not a round ball. It's not predictable how it bounces, and that's football.
No, we can look at our own Argonauts this year. There's many games that, hey, they could have won, but the bounces didn't go that way, or they took their foot off the gas. But this was a game where really both teams had their foots on the gas. It's just, I said it Sunday night on your show, Frank. I said it Saturday afternoon on your show. Saskatchewan basically played the game plan that they've played all season long, and they stayed committed to it, and it paid off for them. Running game was awesome. Trevor Harris had a clean pocket pretty much for a lot of that game. I think one of his comments was that he could have quick releases, but he also said too that he's like, hey, I couldn't have worn shoulder pads and I would have been fine out there. Like, when you have a quarterback saying that, especially in a championship game, that's like, you got to give kudos to the offensive line of the Riders. Receiving played well, and then defense, it's literally the differences of winning and losing the game was getting the fumble, getting the interception.
We saw everything in that game that the Argos couldn't do, the team that we're following. They couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't protect the quarterback, and they didn't get the kind of defense that the Riders
turnovers.
Everything the Riders did, they did really well, and they neutralized special teams. They didn't really capitalize on special teams. Nobody did, but Montreal could have very easily. They have a good kick returner, and they neutralized that. And I just think we go to watch the Argos this year. They did everything wrong. The Argos that won the Grey Cup last year won the same way that Saskatchewan won this year. And there's a trend coming here, guys.
Yep.
You got to have an offense that doesn't make mistakes, because in the championship game, the defenses are going to take over. They're going to take over.
We saw it 2 years ago with Montreal. We saw it even. Like the 2022 season, I can't really comment on that much because I didn't follow the Argonauts closely, but obviously that was the game where Enoch Mwamba had the interception that
ended
won Toronto the game. Yeah. But it's that Sunday's Grey Cup reminds me a lot of that Grey Cup in 2022, where it's not so much like, hey, because both defenses had their moments where they played good, and the defenses had the moments where kind of take your foot off the gas. But when you needed to have a play made, you made a play. 2022 with Enoch, 2023, more than the Tyson Philpott touchdown, but there was the Cole Speaker throw and the Cole Speaker catch on third down in one of those drives.
There were a couple. There were a couple that in the game that Cole Speaker came up big, and big plays are a big factor in the Grey Cup.
Yeah. The one thing I don't want to compare it to, though, is the Caleros finger injury from last year, where everyone was saying like, oh, it's the same thing with Alexander, where for majority of that game, Alexander was fine until that one play where you saw him kind of hop up in his thoroughly aggravated his hamstring again. Because I don't think you can really say, one play. I know obviously Shea Patterson's going to take the brunt of everything, but
I totally disagree. I disagree, Griff. Yeah. Right from the beginning of the game, you could see the game plan was not the normal Montreal game plan. They took him running around out of the game. They did not want him to do that. And the first time he ran, because he was protecting his knees, he ran in head first. And I'll say this as well. And David, I'd like to ask you this question. I'd like to ask you both this question. He came into the game with a problem, maybe with one leg, and then it seemed another leg had a problem. Is that not what happened that day?
I'm pretty sure it was the right hamstring that was the problem going into the game. And you saw it, right, when he tried to step to his right, the right leg, he wasn't really able to put much weight on it. And then on that play late in the fourth quarter, it was a left hamstring. It was a left leg that he came limping on.
That he grabbed.
So part of me wonders two things. Was he compensating for the right leg not being as good, so he was putting more stress on the left leg? And I can't remember. I was going to look this up, actually, which hamstring he injured against Toronto, right? Because when he scored that touchdown,
I seem to remember it was the right hamstring. Somehow in my mind, I'm thinking he was grabbing that.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
You were there. Do you remember when he ran into the end zone and he grabbed his leg? I think it was his right leg he grabbed.
No, it wasn't the game in Toronto. It was in Montreal because NBC played the game in Toronto.
Again, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The game against Toronto, the one that he made the comeback.
Yeah, I'm trying to find video of the actual play because they don't do a good job explaining it. Usually you say what the play is. So let me just quickly look for it here. I'm just checking the recap right now.
While you look at that, we've had a history of quarterbacks that have had a history of being injured.
Yep.
And there have been quarterbacks who just couldn't shake the injury thing. Well, I know one that's in Toronto that's developing that reputation right now as we speak. Yep. There are quarterbacks that can't stay healthy, and then there are quarterbacks who do stay healthy. I hope Alexander's just had this season of misfortune, right? But the reason I say that is because he had two different legs, it seemed to me, that were hurt in the game. He gave indication that two different legs were hurt. I don't think he was pulling the old I'm faking and forgot which leg it was that he was. I hope that's not what was going on. You know what I mean? Like a guy goes, "Oh, my right leg, so terrible. I'm in trouble now. You guys have got me."
Yeah, I don't think
it looked like it was the left hamstring against Toronto.
Okay.
Because it looked like it was just right in the Grey Cup.
Yeah, it looked like the right. Again, it looked like it was the right one. So I don't know.
The left knee. It was when he was going back to pass.
But everyone was talking about the left one going into the Grey Cup.
Yeah, and it was his right knee that buckled under him. Remember later the panel, I saw it during the game, and then the panel mentioned it, and they talked about it on the panel and showed him you cock his arm to throw the ball, and he couldn't put pressure on the one leg. Yeah, and then the play after that, he dove head first instead of hook sliding.
So I got got a little distracted because I was seeing some video from the parade in Regina, and Trevor Harris says it's a good football team and this is a good organization, but the one thing that this team hasn't done is gone back to back. Is this Trevor Harris indicating that he's not done? He has one more year left in the tank?
He did say he was somewhere between retiring and his prime.
I remember that.
That's what he said.
He's going to say it in the moment, but I still think we'll get a clearer decision sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
and we know it's more than possible because the Argos had a quarterback who played this year, and Arbuckle wasn't that bad. Arbuckle, if the team had been better, the Argos could have at least made the playoffs. And then you know what it is with the Grey Cup, right? With the playoffs, you just got to get in. You just got to get in.
Montreal showed that 2 years ago, and even this year to an extent. I know they were always a good team this year, but they were always viewed come October as that team that you did not want to face. And Winnipeg learned that lesson, and Hamilton learned that lesson as well, because for Hamilton, it was a season of just crash and burn to where now with Saskatchewan, I do think Trevor Harris, I think he's going to say that right now, like, anyone says in the parade where it's like, yeah, we're running it back, we're doing this. Like, he's not going to come out and say something somber or like something the fans aren't going to want to hear at their highest moment. No, you're not.
I don't know. If you were him and you waited this long to win a championship, would you let go of the opportunity to do back-to-back?
I also had someone ask me, like, do you think Trevor's retiring? And I actually said, I think there's a better chance Bo is the one to walk away instead of Trevor. And I know Bo's a lot younger, but it's just, I was the way I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I can see Trevor Harris definitely playing one more season. I don't think he just ups and walks away. But I just said that about Bo because I was like, the talk is a little more louder there that people, I think, are, especially Ticats fans, want to anticipate.
I just don't like when you talk about the Ticat fans, I don't like the attitude, the general attitude that emanates from that organization. You have probably your best season in quite a few years. The last time you played this well, you made it to a Grey Cup. You didn't make it to a Grey Cup this time. And you're talking about replacing your head coach that got you there.
Or trying to get bring in another guy in a potentially different role within the organization.
Right.
Yeah. Because we all know if O'Shea was being brought in, well, I know he's on an expiring contract, but you definitely know there'd be a bump in pay and there'd be a bump in title as well.
And I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. I guess that speaks to, as far as I'm concerned, it speaks to a frustration that can be debilitating. It's the kind of frustration that'll hurt your chances of doing the right thing. I had a conversation with David. I'm going to make a hockey reference too, that, the GM had a meeting today, and I said to David, do you think they might fire the head coach? And David said, no, they're not going to do that. That'd be crazy to do right now, especially at this point. And he hasn't. And I think the same thing's true for, if you were the head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and you're the fans of the Tiger Cats. I mean, imagine what they're thinking. They got a coach who's brought them further than they've been in a very long time. And the team looked really good. They just weren't good enough. That's all. And the way they lost was horrible. Last second field goal.
And obviously, too, they've had a few of those this year, but they also had loss off the field as well with Ted Gavaias passing. But it's just for me, it felt like their defense was like good, but there were some moments where like that game on Labor Day, like that's still, to me, for as great as a win that was for the Argos, that's an inexcusable loss for the Ticats. Like, you have them on the ropes, you're throwing everything at them, and you let Arbuckle go down the field and just. I remember Frank and I were on the field for that win. Like, that was just one of those moments where you're like, "Holy crap, they did it." But no, with Hamilton, it just seems like the more and more they go without a Grey Cup title or even an appearance, because I know they went there in 21 and I believe 2019 as well. It just feels like the fans are going to get more and more restless to where I think they make a move that they think is for the better of the organization, but is not. It is different for Toronto, because obviously for them, they kind of like hope and pray on the Argos' downfall with, them not making the playoffs, having a 5-win season, losing Ryan Dinwiddie. But there's still the reason that there's banners at BMO Field that say days since last Ticats Grey Cup, and I believe it's over 5,000 days. So I think if you're Hamilton, you shouldn't have even let that report get out. You shouldn't have even entertained a conversation. And for all we know, Orlando Steinauer is going back down to QEW to be with the Argonauts. We don't know that yet, but it's just speculation that could happen. I still feel like I hope we get clarity within the next couple of weeks of who is going to be the head coach, but I really think for right now, it could be internal, it could be external. I don't know what direction the Argonauts are going to move.
It's tough to know for sure. I think they really were hoping maybe for the Michael Shea, but you can't hope for somebody to leave a situation. And it sounded like Steve Simmons brought this up. It sounded like he was open to the idea, but his family didn't want to leave. Didn't want to leave from Winnipeg, which, okay, it's a little surprising. But I don't know if you guys saw what Steve Simmons said about Dinwiddie, and part of the reason Dinwiddie left is he didn't want to work with John Murphy.
Yeah, I saw
he
that.
did not want John Murphy involved in player personnel decisions. So essentially, probably saying, I want that role. I want to have final say over the roster. And it's very interesting that that Pinball is standing by Murphy this much, considering what Ryan Dinwiddie has accomplished since joining, and considering too that Murphy, there's been some issues off the field as well with him, right? Between the thing with the Tiger Cats fan, the Chad Kelly situation, I think, I think it's interesting. You wonder if that plays a role in any potential people wanting to come in within the organization. But I think this might be a situation where, and they talk about the internal candidates, Mike Miller. I think, Frank, you brought him up. I brought up Pete Costanza. There is Kevin Iben as well. There's other teams that have coaches too, right? Jordan Younger in Winnipeg. You got Orlando Steinauer, who's seemingly got pushed to the side in Hamilton, and probably is looking for something where he can get a little more involved. He's still involved in Hamilton, but not to the degree he was before. So I am curious to see what direction they think is the right way to go in Toronto. But yeah, I sure the Michael Shea one was a bit of a gut punch that they weren't able to get that locked up.
Just imagine, Pinball Clemens is the GM.
Yep.
There is no title above Pinball Clemens right now. The GM it stops there. There's no vice president. Oh no, wait a minute. Does he have vice president? Is that on?
It goes
No, I think
Pinball
it's
and then
just
Telly.
GM. I think it's just GM. He has just the GM. I don't think he has the title of vice president. I don't think so. But my point is, for Dinwiddie to become the GM, what would that mean the Pinball is?
Director of player. It's kind of like what Sean Burke did in Ottawa.
He's the shadow GM, or who's the shadow GM? One of them's the shadow GM, right? So you're talking about who would take over who would handle the players. But anyway, enough about the Argos. I'm done with the Argos. I'm waiting for them to figure out who their coach is. Until we know who their coach is, there's a million other questions that fall into place after that. A lot of stuff, because everything rains down after they decide who the GM, who the assistant coaches are, what his staff looks like. Will the team have input on who the staff is? Because they've done that before. They've hired the coach and decided who the staff is the coach is going to work with. There's a lot of those things that still are hanging out there. And we've got players becoming available. Free agency is going to, before you know it, the break between now and Christmas that shows up. All that stuff means there's a lot that needs to happen between now and the new year.
There's also probably going to be, I wouldn't be shocked to see if there's a surprise trade in the next couple of weeks, because I believe it was around the next week last year when Vernon Adams was traded from BC to Calgary, if you guys remember that news dropping. Or even I'm trying to remember if there was another, I don't think there was another one, but like even to like the Cody Fajardo move and stuff like that, like kind of moves like that where, hey, Rough Rider fans are celebrating, other fans are kind of like, you know what, hey, we're in the offseason now. But for these teams, it's all about, hey, go, 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 go. And the other big point with Hamilton, too, where I say the Bo Levi Mitchell decision, it's the fact that they need an answer from him, because then otherwise you have not a lot of money to go out and spend to make your team better. If you're allocating probably, I don't know what he makes, because obviously they don't make those numbers available. But
pay cut. He did a great thing. He took a pay cut.
Yeah.
He was paid much more.
But if you want to go fix another position, like you can't spend the capital money there that you would normally if Bo's not your quarterback, where you can spend a little less on quarterback. That's all.
Well, exactly. The same thing's true with the Argos, right? Because the how they picked their new head coach, he's going to have a decision to make about who the quarterback is. There's I don't think they can go another. They can't have Arbuckle and Kelly.
No, they can't.
I don't think there's enough ball for to go around if those two are healthy and ready to go.
Well, this is one thing I'll say on that. You got a coach in Ottawa right now that he didn't necessarily throw all of his support behind Drew Brown. He said, we're going to do our best, but also considering other things with the quarterback position, right? If you're Montreal, do you need a better backup option if Davis Alexander's injuries aren't as, if that becomes an issue? Hamilton will be in a position too, or they might need a quarterback as well. If
Winnipeg as well.
I think Zach, I mean, just listening to him on the panel, he seems to be he wants to stay.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that, like, hey,
I don't know, but the thing is, I don't know how many teams can afford to have Nick Arbuckle as a backup.
I think David's highlighting probably the thing that's the most different this season than last off season. Quarterbacks were pretty much settled in last off season.
Yeah, the only one that was really the wild card that came out of nowhere was the like I referred to earlier, the trade that sent VA to Calgary, referring Nathan Rourke to BC, getting VA there, and then sending Cody Fajardo. At first, we thought was a backup, but now Cody Fajardo is going to be the starter in 2026. But we all know Nick Arbuckle had a bad experience before in Ottawa.
He won't. I don't know if he'd go there, but I guess if Dinwiddie's there.
If Dinwiddie calls and says, like, hey, we want you to be either be behind or start and let Drew Brown, work, because he can say, if Drew Brown's pissed off by the decision, it's one thing, but Dinwiddie can go to him and say, hey, less than 2 years ago, I want a Grey Cup with this guy.
And this guy can say, I want a Grey Cup with that guy. under the same circumstances that you guys are both talking about, that Drew Brown starts the season, and Dinwiddie has regularly, the whole time he was in Toronto, he was not married to any quarterbacks. He jettisoned. Well, Arbuckle's one of the guys that he jettisoned, right? He had him as a starter and then jettisoned him. So, Dinwiddie has a real flair for ensuring he believes in the guys that he has in the quarterback room, and I mean the guys in the quarterback room. Dinwiddie doesn't worry about dumping guys. I don't mean to say it that way. He doesn't have a problem with releasing guys if he doesn't think they fit into the picture.
The other thing too, and I just want to get into this, I love what the CFL does, because obviously with the NFL, Super Bowl happens in February, but the schedule doesn't come out till the middle of May because they time everything in that league minute by minute, month by month, second by second. Isn't it awesome that the CFL comes out and says, "Hey, 3 weeks from today, 2026 schedule is fully out." I still think for Toronto, the first, I would say, at least 8 weeks of the season are probably going to be on the road. But there's 2026 already. When you look at it, I don't think you can already come up, because after every season, you can always look and say, hey, these are the teams that are favored to win the Grey Cup. I don't think right now you can comfortably say who's either going to win next year when we're in Calgary, or let alone who's going to be there, because I still think you have 9 teams who are going to do their best to reload, regroup. Eventually, you're going to find the dominoes fall and crack like this past year.
But you can still use the axiom. You got to beat the team that won last year. You can still go. You can use that. That'll still be out there. Where the Argos were the team to beat. Next year, Saskatchewan will be the team to beat. Yeah,
Sask has always been like that. Hey, like their rise to ascension's always kind of been like what Dinwiddie was in Toronto, where it's like 2021. They had a great unexpected year. They get to the East Final, and then 22 they win the Grey Cup, and then 23 they have this awesome season that ends up. But I feel like with Corey Mace, he can help temper expectations, because if they get off to this hot start next year, to where it's, hey guys, I was there in 2023 when we were supposed to be the belle of the ball, and what happened? We got our asses kicked in the East Final. So I think they have the group of everyone to really dictate what's going on, but I still hope for a bit of a chaotic offseason in the sense of just, some unexpected players going to teams we aren't previewing or seeing. And I just want to say with the Zach point, I feel like he will be back. I just feel like, you can't rule out. I just don't want to rule out anything until it's official,
I want to ask David a question.
Yeah. So I feel like Frank and I have been talking for most of this.
No, it's okay. I want to ask David a question.
Go ahead.
If I said to you, the impact of Dinwiddie leaving the Toronto Argonauts, in hindsight. Now, remember, I'm saying this in hindsight. Well, it's not really hindsight because he's just left. But in hindsight, framing it with the Corey Mace departure, this team suffered more after Corey Mace left than I think they'll suffer when Dinwiddie's gone, because there's not really anything left right now. Do you know what I mean? Like I think for me, I think the Argos dropped after the departure of Mace, and Dinwiddie now is leaving with the team basically not that good. So at least from that perspective, the Argos lost more when Mace went away than they're losing with Dinwiddie. Not so if you assume Dinwiddie could have brought this team, the Argos, back again, but we'll never know that. And that's what I say, not quite hard.
To me, in a way, yes, Corey Mace made that defense pretty good, but to me, it wasn't that one, and it wasn't even Dinwiddie. It was Vince Magri. That departure gets kind of looked over, in my opinion.
What was the strength of the Argos?
Canadian depth and the roster and the way they drafted and developed and built their team. And frankly, I mean, you look at it, 2024, that's still a lot of Vince Magri, what he did, right?
Maybe he's the guy they bring back.
I think
he's in the NFL now.
That's got to be a big bump in role and title.
Yeah,
right?
Water boys are more in the NFL than head coaches in the CFL.
But to me too, it's also like the Argos didn't lose because of the way their coaching staff was, in my opinion. I don't think it was a coaching issue. The
So
issue
it
was
was players.
it was players on defense.
Absolutely.
They got gutted. They got absolutely gutted, especially on that defense. Because the offense was among the top offenses in the league,
And the
than
offensive
running game.
line wasn't. And that's
No.
another thing that Magri could have helped a lot because that's where the Canadians reside on the offensive line.
Not only the
traditionally.
Canadians, but other talent that they brought in. They didn't replace the talent on that offensive line. So I do think that it's clear, seeing how Saskatchewan won that game. Offensive line has to be better, right? You
need a running back.
You need a running back, absolutely.
Yeah, you need but I think offensive line and running back go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you put Kadeem Carey in front of that offensive line, is it the same result for him in 2024? It might be a little better than what you got because you were jumbling up by players in a bit, and maybe Dinwiddie didn't like the fact that he had to get rid of Kadeem Carey. Probably part of it. But I do think the offensive line did not play to this caliber. I do think that on the defense, there were holes. There were gaping holes. The depth wasn't there, right? Cameron Judge was good, right? Like, I think he was my defensive player of the year nominee for Toronto because I thought he was like that was a trade that worked because he was good on defense. But what it took away from the offensive line, they couldn't replace.
And
Cameron Judge was traded for Flo, though.
Sorry, defensive line.
Wynton McManus didn't play either. If Wynton McManus had played, I don't think he would have been as big a factor.
Yeah. It was a Jean Allen for the guy from
Ryder Varga.
Varga. Like, did that trade really work out?
No.
I don't think so.
Not for a second. That
was a salary issue as well.
So I want to just, because obviously we're talking about Winnipeg and just O'Shea. As we were on, actually, I saw an article drop from a newly inducted FRC Hall of Famer, Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun. Mike O'Shea said, "Not my favorite thing. People don't understand how much of an issue they can create for their own self-serving purposes. It's kind of sickening, really," in reference to that photo that dropped from him at the airport. I believe it was last Wednesday or Thursday. But the best part about it was because Dave Naylor literally quote tweeted it saying, "O'Shea is a public figure who was in a public space." So I get people being mad at your photo being taken at the airport, but like, CFL fans going to notice you. I think it's just, hey, someone just posting something willy-nilly, but really causing a shitstorm of what it led to.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. The guy's also from Ontario. I could have also been, I'm visiting family. Like it could have been handled a lot better. And, well, I'm not going to get on to how some of the reporters in Winnipeg talk about certain things.
One reporter in Winnipeg that stood on the fact that he felt there was no way that he was going to go because he felt, and he said he was the first reporter to say, and this was 2-3 weeks ago, that he won't be leaving. Immediately when the news came out, I don't see him leaving because his family loves living here in Winnipeg. And it turned out that was true.
Look, it takes I think for O'Shea to leave, it had to be the perfect opportunity for him to leave because, I'm sure Dinwiddie in a way was like, it's tough to leave Toronto because we built a life here and stuff. Ottawa, we're going to give you all the reins. We're going to give you the reins. We're going to give you the keys. Okay, yeah, honey, we're going to move. Like,
I think, and I don't
and it's a younger family that Ryan Dinwiddie has.
But don't underestimate the road season they're going to have next year. I that could get ugly because of the schedule and because of what'll be home games and what won't be.
You know what? But at the same time,
I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying that it's a candidate to get ugly. It could get
1
ugly.
year though. It's
just 1 year. But you can
if this was a multi-year situation, I can understand. But we're talking about 1 year. We're talking about 3 extra games you're gonna have to be on the road for.
Okay, well,
actually 2. One's in Hamilton. Like, let's be honest about this. It's 2 games that are out of your province. Hamilton's a 45-minute drive away, even on the worst days, 50 to 55 minutes. Let's calm down. But you're not the only one that's saying this, Frank.
Oh, I know.
Oh, it's going to be so tough.
I'm regurgitating here.
It's 2 games in Regina and Winnipeg. I get it. It's you know what? They did this out of the convenience and how convenient it was to do it this way. There is going
Money.
to be a competitive balance issue. Yeah, money too. I mean, they could have done what BC is doing. They very well
TV
could have.
won't be impacted. The quality of the television won't be impacted.
Yeah.
Right. I get that part. I get it. I think what I'm doing is I'm referring to
No, but I
how the
understand.
fans take to it, right? How
But
the
even if-
fans feel about it.
But even if they played 3 games at the University of Guelph for my well-being, if selfishly because I'm 25 minutes from campus, you'd still get people that'd be annoyed with that though, having a drive from the
They were
GTA.
annoyed. They were annoyed when they played in Hamilton a bunch of home games the last time we went.
And like my only question is for that home game in Hamilton, will the 3 of us be there? I feel like yeah. And also too for that one, it'd be weird. Like, do we email Hamilton that we're going? Do we email Chris? Like, how does that one work?
Well, Hamilton.
If we have Argo passes, it's their home game. It's their decision who shows up.
Yeah,
I'll have one of these I'll have mine back next year. I know I was on the single ones for last year, but I'll have that one back next year.
To me, I do. Yeah, it's an extra issue where some players will be like, it's more time away from the family. I get that with the travel and stuff, but it is 2 games. I'm hoping that the Argos, when they try to pitch this to players, just say it's 2. It's like if we went for touchdown Atlantic.
Yeah.
Right. That was a home game away. Right. You're not winning. You're not winning this battle. I understand the optics around it and how it was played out. Not something I was a total fan of, but you're dealt these cards. You got to play with them, and you have to figure out a way. That's organizations all have some sort of impediment. Look, Hamilton did a whole year in Guelph.
Yeah,
he did.
Right.
What about BC too? Even getting players to play there, and you're having to sell them on, hey, we're gonna be playing in Kelowna for a few home games as well. So it's not just it's not just Toronto with this problem as well. BC, a team who's looking to get back to the Grey Cup and win a Grey Cup, that's in this predicament as well.
By the way, I am going to also add another update. Trevor Harris clarified his comments saying this team and staff could go back to back. However, he says he is still deciding the future and will meet with Jeremy O'Day this week.
Mm-hmm.
This week. You think, take a week or two to decide.
I think
if you follow Trevor Harris, he augments his income, right? We're all aware of that, right? He has stuff he sells. And he uses who he is to help sell that stuff. I wouldn't be backing away because he can double dip. He's been making money on the side selling his I guess not vitamins, but his health food, I guess, stuff that he sells. Every
CFL player has a side.
I know, but being a Grey Cup winner and being in Saskatchewan, you got to know this, David. When something goes up for sale in Saskatchewan, there's a better chance that it's going to sell in Saskatchewan. They buy everything there. They're really good to their players and their team.
Before we finish wrapping up here with everything, another tweet I came across, a guy named Zach Snitzer. I guess he's a Bombers contributor for something called Bonafide Winnipeg and also Sports Talk Winnipeg, which is a friend of the show. Not Zach, but Sports Talk.
Is that Darren Bombing's co-host?
Yes.
Yes, I know Zach. Okay. I mean, we met him at Grey Cup last year.
Yeah, we met him.
We lost in agonizing fashion in 2022 at Mosaic, a dynasty denied, much to the delight of Riders fans. 3 years later, Bomber dominance dies at the foot of AJ Ouellette, hoisting the Grey Cup at Princess Auto Stadium, strewn with green and white confetti. If there's not a statement that doesn't ring out the what could have beens for the Bombers and what's coming for the Riders, I don't know what else does.
I'll say this about the Blue Bombers, and I don't know people. Yes, Michael Shea is back for another year, but correct me if I'm wrong. They only said 2026.
I saw 3 years.
Was it 3 years?
I saw 3-year extensions for him and Kyle Walters.
Okay, I mean, because I maybe I didn't see the actual story because I did see the tweet. Oh, you are right. Now, here's the other thing, Frank. I know years covering this league, extensions may diddly squat.
They do the management though. Their contracts are guaranteed still.
Well, to a
That's what
degree,
the
there
big
are, yes,
headache
because of
is,
the
right? That's what
well,
the big
because of the lovely management cap. By the way, I know we're wrapping up here. I wanted
That's
to
all
end
good.
on this point
Uh-oh.
because it's my favorite thing to talk about. They spent so much time during the State of the League address talking about the rules. And I hate the fact that they spent so much time complaining about the rules that nobody dared to ask the commissioner about the management cap.
Because you
I
had to
didn't
make
see
Michael Ball and Peter Diakowski happy. That's why.
they did not ask why in a league that you're trying to get the best out of the product possible are you putting teams in a handicap position by saying no, you can't have this coach back because he doesn't fit in your cap. No other professional sports league does this.
I realize that, David, and you're 100% right. But the problem is that the CFL has a relationship with the CFLPA, and they were forced to make this rule because the CFLPA got very upset about the fact that their contracts were guaranteed and the players weren't. And
well, players have their guaranteed contracts now. Get
now
rid of that stupid cap.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They fixed that problem. There are certain guarantees in player contracts. It's not as easy to get rid of players.
There's hard money. Absolutely. There's hard money now.
But I'm sorry, like that really ticked me off when I was seeing all this stuff talking about the rules. Oh, it's such a the way that was being presented, and I'm like, there are more things pressing with the CFL right now than the rules.
I think so, but it's just like I said, I think it's just because the rules have grabbed so many headlines and had such a jarring reaction. That's why everyone wants to know about it. I feel like I don't know if the heat's ever going to die down from the news because the men I don't want to give the men I had mentioned more time of day, but the fact that people like that are spewing their stuff online daily about the rules and people on CFL podcasts are always asking about the rules. It's not going to go away until people see
what happens. At some point. I have yet to see. I'll say it again. I have yet to see rule changes that the fans accept with open arms.
It's not going to happen. It's just more about I don't think anyone's going to ever accept it. I think there's just eventually they're going to either have to warm up to it or they're just going to have to, it is what it is. But I'll still say this: if you want to show your vocal support against it, just don't watch or don't go to the games. It's as simple as that. Because at the end of the day, the league is doing this to bring in more people. That's why.
Don't put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Well, don't put the money.
And let's remember too that a very large segment of the CFL fan base has. It's not their fault. I was among them. It's not their fault. This inferiority complex and this paranoia that one move we're going to make is going to ruin the little that we have. We all know that the league is not making money everywhere, and we all are afraid that making some moves or for somebody, I say we because I'm taking credit for this, in the sense that the fear of the next move they make could be the one that kills the CFL, or it's a preview of a rule they're going to change. For example, everybody always goes to, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to get rid of the 3 down, right? You know what I mean? Like every time they have a new rule, everybody goes, see, now they're going to change our game completely. And it doesn't happen. And I don't think it's going to happen this time.
Field's still 65 yards wide. It's still 3 downs. They're still in limited motion. As long as they don't tamper with any of those things. And also
wider field.
Yeah, wider fields to stay, the limited motion, and the 3 downs, because for the love of God, I work for the network that has 3 downs in the title. You got to keep it the way it is. And I also think too, everyone's saying, they're doing this to expand to America. No, they're not doing this to expand to get teams in America. They're literally doing this so they can expand the TV revenue into America. Because if you bring in that audience, it helps your league. It doesn't hurt your league.
And you're suggesting, and I buy into it as well, by the way, that if people don't see a difference right away, they'll watch the game longer if it doesn't look confusing for them.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend who not only watches but bets on it, and he's always like, what's with this clock situation? Why is the field goal post in the front? Like, there's a lot of it. Look how big that end zone is. How is it not that easy to score with that big of an end zone? I get asked that all the time. Like, it's it's not like people think it's not talked about. It's talked about. I've had 3 or 4 different people talk to me about this.
I don't understand the upsetness with the moving of the goalposts. I don't think that, CFL fans aren't, the majority of them aren't in love with the Rouge. There's a big segment that don't like the Rouge. They don't want the Rouge in. So
look at what happened to the Argo game last year.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not saying I have to love something because it worked for me last time. That's not the point here. We're talking about the game, and it does. Come on, it makes sense. The goalposts shouldn't be on the. The goalposts shouldn't be part of the game. They should be on the outside when necessary. They're necessary. The goalposts are there to get a field goal. If you get it between them, you get a field goal. But when players are running around the field in the end zone, it's nice to know it's all clear. I mean, can you imagine there's a Super Bowl that wouldn't have been lost by Seattle to New England if the goalposts were there? Because they would have run the ball.
I think
that's none of my business.
So I just think, like, look, give it a chance, see how it goes. You don't know how it's gonna go. People don't know how it's gonna go. They're trying to, I don't know. There's a lot of
if the rules committee identifies issues with any of the rules that they're changing, if the rules committee honestly says, hey, I see some bad possible, okay, what is it? Then I could see it changing back, but I don't think it will, because I think they've made the determination based on what they feel the end goal is and why these rules were changed. They were changed for a reason, and that reason, like when they changed the pass interference rule, as silly as it sounded when it first came out, there was a reason for it, and the reason was real, where games were being decided because of the inconsistent calls on interference. Simple.
It's as simple as that. It's just, like we say, people just, they see it and they're like, they're taking the league away from us. They're changing it. I just don't see, like, I understand people that were like disappointed in it, but there's a lot of people that are just going to complain online about it. But like, if you have a problem with it, like, have your voice be heard. Don't just be on Twitter all the time. Change is a part of life. Just get used to it. It's as simple as that. But we've covered in a podcast that was supposed to be a Grey Cup recap. We've covered a lot of bases. We covered our Argonauts. We covered
How about those Riders, eh? How about those Riders?
Hey, it's the
Riders. Do they repeat? Do you think they repeat?
I mean, they're going to be a favorite to repeat, and they're going to be viewed as.
Depends on if they're able to keep the core together. If they don't get absolutely bludgeoned like Toronto did in terms of their roster, they have a good chance.
Yeah,
they got a lot of the components right.
But you look at it right now, you're going to have a West in 2026 is going to be like 2025, where it's going to be a wild, wild West just to get to Calgary next year.
And with Dinwiddie moving to Ottawa, I really think the battle we're going to finally see what I've predicted for years, that we'll see a battle for the playoffs in the Eastern Division. Not a battle to make it and stop the crossover, a battle to actually finish third and fourth in the Eastern Division on its own. It's going to be interesting.
I hope for that too, just because the last few years, like last year, Hamilton was bad. This year, Toronto was bad, and Ottawa were bad. And then 2 years ago, Ottawa was just bad. Like, I'd rather see that, though, where it's like, hey, even if first place isn't decided before the last week of the year, hey, as long as that last weekend of the regular season is consequential, it's a victory for CFL fans. That's all we can ask for.
Well, we want games that are meaningful. That's what we want, as whether you're a reporter or whether you're a fan. That's one thing reporters and fans agree with. They want to see their team compete. For us, we want to see teams compete. But still, it's competition, right? That matters. That brings people to the edge of their seat, and then they buy tickets. And then people who are watching the game, like you said, Griff, and I agree with you, make the game look a lot like it's we got to pull a bait and switch. Business is dirty pool. You got to figure out how to capture a new audience. And if it means you got to change the look of the field to get people to spend a little more time watching the game, giving the game a chance to grab you, which doesn't happen if somebody sees the goalpost and goes, well, this isn't football.
Yeah.
That's all. So I believe that.
Yeah, I'm just not looking forward to next year during Grey Cup week, and everyone's like, "This is the last real Grey Cup to be played." Where it's like,
No, geez, here we go.
it's going to happen. I'm just embracing it for it when it happens in 52 weeks from now. Where hopefully the three of us are not doing this in Ontario, we're doing this in the province of Alberta. But you know what, guys? Thank you. We got to appreciate we've been here all CFL season long. We kind of go into CFL hibernation mode between now and pretty much until Toronto hires a head coach, and then we wake back up, and then we go back to sleep until free agency.
Yep. Well, we'll see. We'll have fun. There's always stuff to talk about with the Canadian Football League.
Oh, there is. I know.
There's
It's just
always stuff to talk about.
Now it's kind of that time where, you take a break, you go through the motions, and just like, hey, it's the off season. But off season football is chaotic for a reason. It's the reason why the NFL doesn't call it the off season. They just say they have their 3 seasons. They have regular season, playoffs, and then that long 7-month break, which the CFL is entering right now from November to June.
Absolutely. Well, this is things quiet down in December, give people a chance to enjoy their personal lives, and then things will start to get intense again with the draft and with free agency and all that wonderful stuff.
Exactly. But anyway, gentlemen, it was a blast getting to do this as always. This has been episode number 409 of YWC Football Talk. We painted it green like the Rough Riders are currently doing in Regina. But take care, CFL fans. We'll be back when we'll be back. And have a good night. Thank you very much for listening.